My name is Angela Peabody, a writer, a journalist, and a humanitarian. In 2005, I had a vision. I wanted to bring women together from all over the world in one forum, in a medium where they could share their stories with each other. And then somebody said to me, why don't you start a magazine? That would be a good way for them to do it. So we started Global Woman Magazine. And the magazine took off. All we did was we put one ad on Craigslist. And we said, how would you like to write for this new magazine? And we received emails from all over the world, from as far as South Africa, Japan, Australia. Women were writing, wanting to write for this magazine when the magazine had not even been born. And what set Global Woman Magazine apart from the rest of the magazines is that we allowed women and girls to write their stories directly in the magazine. We didn't have someone interview them and then transcribe the interview to the magazine in a story. We wanted them to tell their stories firsthand in the first person because it was much more impactful that way for the readers to feel as though these women and girls were sitting in the room with them, telling them their riveting stories. And it took off. Global Woman Magazine became really popular around the world with women from Australia, Japan, the UK, Europe, South Africa, West Africa, and all over the United States and North America. So we just started the magazine that way, and women brought their stories, and we published the first issue. The second issue we published, we were still at a crossroad whether or not to continue because of costs. But what really inspired me to continue and go to the third issue of the magazine was when we published in the second issue about a 34-year-old woman in Virginia who was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she wrote her story firsthand in the magazine about her survival and her bout with breast cancer. And she had advice for other women out there, other young women. And I received, weeks later, after the release of that edition of the magazine, I received a reaction from a 41-year-old woman in Japan. And she said, I am 41 years old. I read the story about the 34-year-old woman in Virginia, the United States, and I went and got my first mammogram done. I had never had a mammogram prior to that, to reading that story, and I went and got my first mammogram done, and that did it for me. I sat at my desk thinking, this is exactly what I had in my vision. When I had this vision in 2005, I thought about women, one woman's story inspiring the next woman, and that's exactly what had happened with the 41-year-old woman in Japan being inspired by the 34-year-old woman sitting in Virginia in the United States. And that gave me the courage to want to go forward with the third issue, and I told my editorial staff and everybody else who was with me, and they agreed, and we felt that we were making a difference. And that's That's where it came from. With everybody, we published stories about women and girls who had breast cancer, who were victims and survivors of domestic violence, who had survived fistula, who had survived female genital mutilation. We were getting stories from women and girls all around the world about these different causes, humanitarian causes, and we were publishing them. And everyone, our readers, thought that Global Woman magazine was a not-for-profit magazine publication, but it was for profit. Global Woman magazine was for profit. And that's when the humanitarian in me came out, and I got the idea along with my sons, and we said, everybody already thinks that we are nonprofit, so why don't we start a nonprofit organization and help these very women who are writing their stories, sharing their stories with us. Let's help them as a nonprofit organization, and then later we can go back to doing the magazine, which has always been for profit. And that's what we did. In 2010, we had so many subscribers, and unfortunately, in 2010, we decided to do nonprofit and put aside the for-profit, which was Global Woman magazine, and later we would come back to it. So Global Woman Peace Foundation was born from that thought, because one son had already started a nonprofit organization called Peace. He and I had started Peace. People everywhere, all created equal. That's what Peace meant. And it was intended to be an organization for children. But we never really got it off the ground completely, because we were busy with the magazine. And then we had Global Woman on the other side, and we were talking about going and doing a nonprofit organization with Global Woman, and we decided, why not just put the two together and combine it, instead of having two nonprofit organizations and a magazine. Let's combine Global Woman and People Everywhere, All Created Equal, and make it one. And Global Woman Peace Foundation was born out of that. So from Global Woman magazine, a for-profit outfit, came the idea of putting together People Everywhere, All Created Equal with Global Woman. And that's how the nonprofit organization was born. And it was so easy to attract supporters for Global Woman Peace Foundation, because we already had an audience from the magazine, and most of those audiences, or most of those people from that audience, came over and supported the nonprofit organization. So we're at another crossroad where we are not going to stop Global Woman Peace Foundation, because the foundation is doing wonderful work. We are addressing female genital mutilation. We have addressed domestic violence in the past, human trafficking. We're going to keep Global Woman Peace Foundation just where it is, and continue to grow it and continue to take it worldwide, so that we can continue to help women and girls who need us. But now we want to bring back the magazine, so that, because we are still receiving almost every day I receive news reports from writers or story tips. They want to know if we are still publishing the magazine, if we still want their stories. And so I thought, well, maybe this is a good way to bring back the magazine. People are still writing and asking if they can run their stories in the magazine. So we're going to bring back Global Woman Magazine, which will be a for-profit entity, but we're still going to keep the nonprofit Global Woman Peace Foundation. So we are asking you to join us and send in your stories. We are calling on women and girls to send in their stories. Write your own stories in the first person and send them to us, and we will publish your story. You can become a published writer instantly through Global Woman Magazine. I thank you.